Okay, so if you had told me a year ago that a solid-oxide fuel cell maker would become the hottest AI play on the market, I think I would have laughed. But here we are. Welcome to Earnings Unscripted. Today is April 28th, 2026, and we are looking at Bloom Energy, ticker BE.
It is a wild pivot, but they really earned that attention today.
They really did. Let me just frame up the quarter really quickly. First quarter revenue came in at $751.1 million. That is technically down about 3% from Q4, but their operating cash flow flipped positive to $73.6 million, which is apparently the first time they have ever had a positive cash flow in the historically slow first quarter.
Right. That sequential revenue drop is honestly just noise. If you look at product revenue, it actually hit an all-time high of $653 million. What dragged the total down was just, well, the timing of installations. The real story here is the demand side. They are collecting massive prepayments from hyperscalers who are practically begging to reserve future capacity.
Which is exactly the kind of problem you want to have as a hardware company. A quick pause, though, just reminding everyone that this is simply our personal take and absolutely not financial advice. Please do not trade your life savings on our podcast banter.
Yeah, good disclaimer. Though clearly someone was trading aggressively on this news. If you watch the tape right after the close, the stock just went vertical.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it closed the regular session around 226, and then it just instantly spiked up into the 260s in after hours. I think it peaked near 264 right before the call started and settled up around 8%.
Exactly. Because the market is looking past some of the messy margins, GAAP operating margin actually slipped a bit to 9.6% this quarter. But Wall Street does not care about a small margin dip right now. They are completely fixated on the Oracle partnership.
Project Jupiter. The scale of this it's genuinely hard to wrap your head around. Up to 2.45 gigawatts for one AI factory in New Mexico. Shahar said on the call that is the power equivalent of the entire state of Rhode Island in one single facility.
It is staggering. And the kicker is that it will be 100% off the grid. No utility connection, no diesel backup generators, no massive battery banks, just Bloom fuel cells and ultra capacitors. They're doing this because the tech giants simply cannot wait years in these utility interconnection queues anymore.
Right. Time to power is the new existential bottleneck. If you want to train the next massive AI model, you can't wait 4 years for a transformer permit.
Precisely. So Bloom is basically selling them a bypass lane. It's a brilliant way to reposition heavy industrial hardware as digital infrastructure.
All right, let's get into the details. There's so much to unpack with this scaling plan.
Yeah, the scale is basically the whole thesis here. You don't jump from historically, they were doing around 200 megawatts a year, right? And now they are suddenly aiming for 5 gigawatts. It is a completely different sport. Sridhar called it a copy-exact model.
Wait, copy-exact? Like what Intel does for chip fabs?
Exactly. That is the precise parallel they want you to draw. Look, the legacy power industry builds things, well, one giant bespoke project at a time. It is massive, lumpy capital expenditure. Bloom is trying to just stamp out capacity continuously, almost like a software release, which completely explains why they hired a semiconductor guy as their new CFO.
Oh, right, Simon Edwards. He came over from Grok, the AI inference chip startup.
Right. You do not hire an AI chip CFO unless you want to be valued like an AI supply chain company. But look, the really fascinating technical angle here is not just how they scale the factories. It's how they're actually feeding power to these new chips. You caught the bit about native DC generation?
I did, but honestly, the electrical engineering stuff goes a bit over my head. I know the advanced chips like Hopper and Rubin need direct current power, but doesn't the grid just give them that?
Well, no. The grid is AC, alternating current. So normally you need massive substations, step-down transformers, heavy copper switchgears to convert all of it. And the lead times on large power transformers are they're a complete logjam globally right now.
Oh, wow. So Bloom just bypasses the copper shortage entirely.
That is the pitch. Let me actually find the quote. I wrote this one down. Sridhar said, quote, "It is inevitable that they are going to switch to 800-volt DC because the world does not have enough copper, does not have enough transformers. Necessity is basically forcing their hand.
That makes a ton of sense, and it ties right into that shift toward edge computing he was talking about. Like Sridhar said, the next wave of AI inference needs to sit right next to urban populations for low latency. You literally cannot drop a massive screaming gas turbine into a suburb. The permitting protests alone would take a decade.
Yeah, that is the theory. Silent, emission-free heavy power in your backyard. He even joked about the grid being a dead end on the call, saying he tells customers, "We are happy to sell you a bridge to a bridge because Superman ain't coming."
Okay, that is a fantastic line. But I feel a catch coming, Miro. You have that specific tone.
Well, look at the actual technical risk on this Oracle deal. Project Jupiter, 2.5 gigawatts with zero grid tie, no diesel backup, no huge battery banks. Sridhar said they are relying strictly on their internal ultracapacitors to handle immediate load following.
So, essentially no safety net.
None. If those GPUs pull a sudden, massive compute spike, the fuel cells have to instantly match the power draw. Doing that flawlessly without a massive battery buffer at a multi-gigawatt scale? It is just incredibly unproven. It looks brilliant on paper, but one major failure there and the entire narrative breaks.
Plus, he did openly admit there would be, I think he called them speed bumps in the supply chain as they scale. Like, they kept the same factory workers and aggressively taught them hyperautomation, which is an amazing human story, but a capacity jump from 200 megawatts to 5 gigawatts is gonna strain things.
Of course it is. The bespoke fuel cell supply chain is not exactly Amazon Prime. You have extremely aggressive growth targets resting on absolutely flawless hardware execution.
Right, which brings us to the obvious question then. They are clearly feeling confident enough to raise their full-year guidance materially. So where does this actually leave their trajectory heading into next quarter?
Well, they are not just feeling confident. They are basically planting a flag. Edwards he dragged the full-year revenue projection all the way up to a range of 3.4 to 3.8 billion. And he made a point to say the lower end of this new range sits completely above the upper bound of their old range.
Wow. That is roughly an 80% jump year over year at the midpoint. You just do not see that in the traditional power sector.
Right, because it's tech growth now. And for next quarter, he expects Q2 to be at least as strong as Q1. But honestly, the metric to watch is margins. They're targeting roughly 34% non-GAAP gross margin for the year. If they can secure that 4-point improvement while scaling up to 5 gigawatts, that's the real proof the copy-exact model works.
Which loops back to the broader picture Sridhar painted. He said, time to power has gone from a procurement consideration to an existential necessity, meaning whoever deploys fastest wins the AI war.
Exactly. But you have to remember the structural risk here. It's customer concentration. Last year, 3 customers made up 71% of their total revenue. You stack this mammoth Oracle facility on top of that, and Bloom is essentially tying its entire balance sheet to the spending habits of a handful of hyperscalers.
True. Although if you have to hitch your wagon to a specific group right now, the companies building global superintelligence are probably a decent bet to keep spending.
That's fair. As long as the AI capital keeps flowing, the fuel cells keep spinning.
A perfect way to put it. I guess we'll find out next quarter if they can actually pave that bypass lane without hitting those speed bumps along the way. And hey, if you want these earnings conversations to just naturally show up for you, consider following the show. As a quick, transparent aside, we do use AI to help generate the podcast, which is a total lifesaver for parsing hundreds of pages of SEC filings instantly. We would really love to hear your feedback or any ticker requests, so just shoot us an email at earningsunscripted@datamadness.ca or grab the X link in our show notes.
See you next time.